The film opens with a man named Philip, formerly a detective in the police force. Although he has retired from the force, he still works as a spy, and his current job is to spy on people who are playing behind their partners' backs. Although no longer a police officer, Philip still collaborates with his old colleagues. Philip possesses above-average abilities, and Philip's abilities are thanks to his mentor, Mama Sita. Mama Sita herself has retired due to her advanced age. However, she still occasionally intervenes in minor cases. Meanwhile, Philip is known to have an attraction to older women rather than younger ones. It's his nature. Even his office colleagues have been his targets. One night, Philip is at a nightclub. There, he meets a woman named Raluca. However, the night doesn't go smoothly. Raluca seems to be having trouble with a man who keeps approaching her and asking her to be intimate. However, Philip is there and immediately helps her out. But when Philip wanted to go home, he was beaten by several people until he was helpless. Not long after, Raluca came to his aid and took Philip home. Raluca lived alone. She had divorced her husband, and her child was now being cared for by her older sister. That night was a long one for the two of them, and predictably, they even made out for the first time. From then on, Philip and Raluca saw each other often, and even more so. However, in the midst of their relationship, a new problem arose. One of Philip's colleagues arrived with a file containing a photo of a bald man. Upon seeing it, Philip's expression immediately changed, because the man in the photo was part of his dark past. Unknown to him, Philip suddenly became anxious. News circulated that the bald man had disappeared, and the police were searching for him. Rumors suggested he had been killed by someone, though the perpetrator had not yet been identified. One day, while Philip was visiting Raluca's house, he met her older sister, Elena, who was still beautiful. Despite this, Philip's heart remained attached to Raluca. Some time later, Philip and Mama Sita were on a reconnaissance mission. Unfortunately, due to Mama Sita's aging condition, she became the target of an attack. She had to be rushed to the hospital. Philip was devastated and felt guilty. Mama Sita shouldn't have been involved in that mission. Shortly afterward, Raluca called Philip in a panicked voice. She asked for help because a man was trying to force her to make love. Without thinking, Philip came and beat the man. Raluca helped by giving him a gun. Finally, the man was defeated, but their problems only got worse. They had to cover their tracks to avoid the police. The evidence was also disposed of. For the time being, the two agreed not to see each other or communicate by phone. However, the peace didn't last long. Philip's mind continued to be confused. Until one day, his friend came over, intending to cheer him up and invite him to make love. But because he was in a bad mood, Philip declined the invitation. The police were now investigating Philip's case, and even his friends were finding out. He was asked to cooperate, but Philip chose to flee. One of his friends apparently had photos of Philip with a woman, and that woman was none other than Raluca. They had even saved the text messages between the two. Philip grew suspicious. He approached Raluca and demanded an explanation, asking how their secret could have been leaked. Sure enough, it was all a trap, and the perpetrator was Raluca herself. It turned out that the weapon Philip used to kill the victim hadn't actually been thrown away. Raluca still kept it and had swapped it for another. The mastermind behind the trap was Raluca's husband. He knew that his brother had been killed by Philip. The bald man in the photo was, in fact, Raluca's husband's brother. That was Philip's dark past. Fortunately, this time Philip was given another chance to improve his life. However, he was warned to stay away from Raluca. Fortunately, Philip still had friends who cared about him. Otherwise, he might have been in prison for a long time. And in the end, the film is finished.